My adopted twins didn't know siblings were supposed to protect each other, and their story exposed generational horror. The social worker called at 8:43 on a Thursday morning to tell me they'd found my children. Not children I'd been searching for, but children who'd been searching for someone like me. Twins, she said. 6 years old, brother and sister. They'd been removed from their fourth foster placement in 18 months, and the system was out of options. Behavioral issues, she explained in that careful voice social workers use when they mean something worse. The boy was violent toward his sister. The girl was completely nonverbal despite having no medical reason for it. They needed someone experienced with severe trauma, someone who wouldn't give up. I'd been certified as a therapeutic foster parent for 3 years, specializing in cases other families rejected. My husband Dean and I had taken in 11 kids, helped them heal enough to move to adoption or reunification. We'd seen abuse patterns, attachment disorders, developmental delays. We thought we'd seen everything. The twins arrived on a Saturday afternoon in September, delivered by a transport worker named Gina, who looked exhausted. The boy, Callum, got out of the van first. Small for 6, maybe 40 pounds, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes that tracked every movement like he was calculating escape routes. His sister Nora stayed in her seat until Callum went back and took her hand. She followed him with her head down, blonde hair hiding her face. Gina handed me 2 trash bags containing their belongings and a file folder 3 inches thick. She said good luck in a tone that suggested we'd need it. Dean carried the bags inside while I knelt to the twins' eye level. Callum immediately stepped in front of Nora, blocking her from my view. His hands were clenched into fists. I introduced myself and Dean, explained this was their new home. Callum said nothing. Nora made no sound. I showed them to their room, prepared with 2 beds. Callum looked at both beds, then pushed them together so hard the frames scraped across the floor. He positioned himself on the outer edge, creating a barrier between Nora and the door. She climbed onto the inner bed and curled into a ball facing the wall. Dean and I exchanged glances. We'd never seen a 6-year-old arrange defensive sleeping positions like a soldier. I suggested they might want to see the house, maybe have a snack. Callum shook his head once. He wasn't leaving that room until he'd assessed every threat. We left them alone and went downstairs to read their file. The documentation was horrifying in what it included, and more horrifying in what it carefully avoided saying. Born to a mother with severe addiction issues who'd lost custody when they were 18 months old. First foster home lasted 6 months before removal due to the foster father's inappropriate behavior that resulted in criminal charges. Second placement lasted 4 months until the foster mother reported she couldn't handle Callum's aggression toward Nora. Third placement ended after 3 months when neighbors reported hearing screaming and seeing bruises. Fourth placement lasted 5 weeks before the foster parents called emergency services saying Callum had attacked Nora with a kitchen knife. The report from that incident was paperclipped to the back. Callum had grabbed a knife, but the foster mother who witnessed it said he'd grabbed it to defend Nora from the foster father, who'd been advancing on her with his belt. Callum had held the knife with both hands, trembling but refusing to move until police arrived. He was 6 years old. The psychiatric evaluation noted that Callum exhibited extreme hypervigilance and protective behaviors toward his sister that were developmentally inappropriate and obsessive. The evaluator recommended separation to allow both children to develop individual identities. The recommendation made me sick. They wanted to split up 2 traumatized children because the boy's protection was too intense. That evening, I made spaghetti. I brought 2 plates to their room since they weren't coming downstairs. Callum took both plates, set one next to Nora, and waited. She didn't move. He picked up her fork, twirled spaghetti onto it, and held it near her face. After a long moment, she opened her mouth. He fed her 3 bites, then took 1 bite himself. 3 for her, 1 for him. The pattern continued until her plate was empty and his was 3/4 full. I asked if he was still hungry. He looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. Of course he was hungry, but Nora ate first. Nora ate more. That was the rule. I brought him another plate. He stared at it suspiciously, waiting for the catch. When I just left it and walked away, he ate so fast I worried he'd choke. Over the next few days, we established a routine. The twins stayed in their room most of the time. Callum would emerge for bathroom trips, always checking the hallway first, always positioning himself between Nora and any adults. She stayed behind him like a shadow, never making eye contact, never making sound. Dean tried engaging them with toys, books, cartoons. Callum accepted a deck of cards and spent hours teaching Nora games, his voice low and patient. When she got something right, his whole face would transform for just a second before the guarded expression returned. I called their previous caseworker, Tessa Moreno. She was relieved they'd been placed and asked how the violence was manifesting. I told her there was no violence. Callum was protective, yes, intensely so, but I'd seen no aggression except in defense of Nora. Tessa was quiet, then said every previous placement had reported Callum hitting, pushing, or threatening his sister. And that's when